Hello everybody, JGC Anime here, and welcome back to another anime review where today I'm going to be reviewing Sword Art Online Ordinal Scale, the Sword Art Online movie. This is probably the first movie review, not counting the re-upload of the My Hero Academia movie review on the channel. This is probably the first technically official one, so I'm going to admit there will probably be a huge spoiler section because I don't really want to go into details without spoiling the plot, because it's generally a movie that I have to give a full-fledged, spoiler-filled opinion on, but I'll just go through a bunch of the things that I normally do and move along with it, okay? Okay. So, basic story summary is that we are now in the real world where a brand new invention called the Agma has been invented, and after that, the new game Ordinal Scale, a game that's sweeping the nation because of its really cool abilities, is becoming very popular. And during all of this, the SAO survivors at the SAO Survivor School all got free Agmas, and literally everyone has them, including Kirito, the main character, and every other character. Every single person in the group has them. And yeah, so during this whole adventure, they quickly learn some things that happen in Ordinal Scale. A bunch of crazy stuff happens that I don't want to spoil because it's really easy to spoil. And yeah, so a bunch of different events ensue, and we get a bunch of new characters. Well, not that many new ones, but we do get some really interesting new characters, such as the character A-1, which I don't know if other people picked up on this, but for me, when I was reading his name, I just thought his name, because it was A-1, it looks like it was pronounced edgy. So I laughed at that the first time I saw it, because it just sounded so much like his name had turned to edgy. And then there's also Yuna, AR pop star, which is really interesting, along with a lot of new unique aspects that I never even thought about. And yeah, so if we go into what I like about this movie, I'd probably say I like its characters. I think Kirito once again pulls off a great main character story, and I think basically if you enjoyed the first season of SAO, you'll probably enjoy this one too. And another thing I absolutely loved was the fight scenes. The fight scenes and the whole animation in this movie was fantastic. It was some of the best animation I have ever seen. And when I first watched it, literally every single battle was such a thrill. I really, really liked the battle scenes in this movie, and the story I think is actually pretty good. The songs in it are really good, and I really enjoyed a lot of it. If I had to complain about something in this movie, it probably would be the timing, because in the climax of the film, it feels, even though so much happens, it supposedly takes place all in 1 day to 2 days, which I don't really understand how all that stuff happened. It didn't make so much sense to me, but there was a few parts that were a little more confusing than others. But overall, I still had a lot of fun watching this movie. So for talking about spoiler-free thoughts, I thought the movie was a very fun and just overall great story movie. I know a lot of people hate SAO, and even I admit Season 2 wasn't their best. I think Season 1 was one of their best seasons. Season 2 needed a lot of work. So when I was going into this movie, I was just like, I don't know what to expect, so let's just wing it. So I really wasn't sure what to expect, and overall, I thought the movie was highly enjoyable. I've rewatched it, I believe, 7 times now, and I don't really rewatch that many movies. It's just the fight scenes and the story in this movie, it continuously, just over and over, gets me interested. I find it a lot of fun, and I don't care what some people say, I still think Kirito's a great protagonist. I am still disappointed by not a lot of Klein, though. I really want Klein to get a lot of attention again. Why has he never gotten that much attention? Please make a Klein spin-off SAO. I just want that. And yeah. I guess we'll move into a spoiler section now. Here's a timestamp to when the spoiler section's over with, and I'm gonna count down 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so in spoiler thoughts, I thought the whole Yuna Yuna storyline, where she's a person who died in Sword Art Online, if she's the pop star idol person. She died in Sword Art Online, and so her father is trying to bring her back to life through the memories of the Sword Art Online survivors. I thought that was a really cool concept. I actually was I thought it was a very good backstory to why the main villain is doing this, and AG is also really a great villain. He gives me many reasons to hate him, and those are my favorite antagonists, ones that I can generally say I like but don't like at the same time. Like, I feel bad for him at times, but I still think, yeah, he's the villain. I don't entirely care. So it really does work out really well, and I admit, the final fight scene in this movie was a freaking thrill ride. I loved it. I thought it was one of the best fight scenes I have ever seen. I literally goosebumps the entire time. Every single time I watched that scene, I have gotten goosebumps every single time. The action is great, and just everybody coming together. And even though I'm not a fan of the Mother's Rosario arc, when Asuna uses Mother's Rosario, I was flipping out. I can't believe how consistent everything is. And even after that fact, in the later seasons, they still treat it like the movie exists. They don't pretend it's just something that wasn't entirely canon like almost every other anime does. One thing I've realized is that a lot of anime movies have this really consistently boring storyline. If you don't know what I mean, almost every movie I've seen so far from anime, besides the My Hero Academia movie, has followed the same story of main characters meet someone new, and that person dies by the end. That's happened almost every time. And while I really say that for Yuna, because even though they say she's no longer gonna be who she is, the Yuna idol character is still like a thing. She's still a thing, apparently. I don't entirely know for sure, but I've seen spoilers for the second half of Sword Art Online Alicization War of the Underworld. And even though I don't want to see those spoilers and I just want to wait for the dub to come out, it's just taking ages for it to freaking come out. But I don't know. I thought that this movie was really good. I thought the whole memory loss thing was scary at first. I was just like, holy crap. And I was just freaking out. And the battle scenes, I loved every single one of them. When I also admit I ended up buying the movie on iTunes, and so I could watch it while I was on the bus to school and stuff like that. And while the fight scenes and stuff were not as climactic as they were when I watched it on my computer and on my TV, they were still really fun to watch. And also, every single time, that scene where Asuna loses her memories, no matter what screen I watch it on and how many times I've rewatched it, it always gives me goosebumps. I always get scared at that scene. It's just so beautifully executed. This movie was just such a freaking good movie. I wouldn't call it a masterpiece, but I'd call it a really good movie. I like it more than most of the movies I've seen so far, and it's the only anime movie I actually enjoyed. There are movies like Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in the Dungeons movie, which I thought was okay, but nothing like truly phenomenal, since again it was that storyline of somebody introduced and dies by the end, which really ruined it. But overall, it's hard to find a good anime movie, and yet this one somehow not only makes it feel like a movie, but it also feels like I'm just continuing to watch SAO, and there's nothing about it that feels cliche or boring. And even in the parts that are cliche and boring, they still manage to make them fun. And the battle scenes, I know I'm talking a lot about the battle scenes, but they're just so freaking beautiful. I just can't help but just grow goosebumps and just smile, but also stare at it in fear when I'm watching. I think this movie was so freaking good. And when everyone gets their save data from SAO when they're fighting the final boss, and Kirito gets back into his black swordsman form, I was just like, this is epic. Because I don't know about other people, but whenever Kirito uses his two blades in dual wielding, I love it. I freaking love it. It is so freaking good. I love when that happens. I don't know, but I just really like his dual wielding. I thought it was cool in the original season. I thought it was cool in Alicization, which I may make a review for that in the future. And I also thought it was cool in this movie. This movie was great. I really only see a few flaws in the movie. Like, there are times when the lines feel really unnatural. Like this time with Sugaha, Kirito's cousin, sister, person, where she's like, I'm gonna make a video to show him some kendo moves, and he'll be able to deal with those monsters, no sweat. I just felt like that line was so forced. It really wasn't that good. There are a few of those lines in the movie where they just don't feel natural, but it's still a good movie. I think the story is good. The setting is good. Everything about it is so good. The animation is great. Everything about this movie was so freaking good that the flaws just kind of dissipate. And I keep watching because I'm having fun. And this whole thing was great. I thought this movie was so good. And I can't understand why some people hate this movie. It is so good. Compared to other movies, this one was really good. And I thought the characters and then were also great because like several characters returned, from Lisbeth to Aegil. Klein, of course, returns, and also Silica, who all those characters are from the original SAO series. They appear multiple times throughout the series. They were all great characters, and overall, I'm kind of sad that the Ogma and the nerve gear type stuff doesn't exist today. I really wish it did, because I would love that kind of stuff. It's just seeing all these cool gadgets in this movie and anime in general. I just really wish it existed in real life. Then I could get a good night's sleep and enjoy my life, because basically my brain is being stimulated with the video game world while I'm asleep, so that would be really cool. Basically, the only problem I found with this movie was a bit of pacing and issues and some weird lines from time to time, but it's still such a good movie. And even though it's 2 hours long, I don't mind sitting through those 2 hours. I'm so sorry if I've been sounding far away from this whole time. I've been recording, like, my microphone's like 5 to 10 inches away from me. It's because I'm filming this on Friday night, because I originally planned to record this Thursday night, but moving on past that. Basically, I thought this movie was really good. A lot of the scenes had me on goosebumps, and this may sound ridiculous, but during the final fight scene when I first watched this movie, I was so thrilled by the movie. I accidentally kicked my desk and almost tipped it over, and it's just such a good film. When I say it's perfect, no, but it's a pretty good film. So we're at the conclusion, and basically, in short summary, I thought this movie was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a really good movie, and while there were pacing issues and a few weird lines from time to time, I thought it was a great movie. I rate this movie a 10 out of 10. That may sound like it's giving it a lot of credit, but this movie is one of my favorite movies now. I have rewatched it so many times, and this movie was so good. I thought it was so freaking good. I don't know why so many people hate on this show and this whole series, because I hear, like, when I first saw this series, like when I first heard of it, a lot of people said it was okay or bad, so I was really worried about when going into this, because I thought the premise sounded really good. And then I watched the show and I freaking fell in love with it. I think it's a great show. It's probably one of my favorite animes. And I don't know why people hate it. Maybe I just love bad writing or something, which wouldn't be good because I like bad writing. Does that mean the scripts I'm writing for my own work are bad writing? Hopefully not. But overall, I thought this movie was really good, and I generally am not planning to change that opinion anytime soon. The fight scenes were phenomenal, the story was great, and the new characters, the old characters alike, everything was so good, and I just loved this movie. I would watch it dozens times more. In fact, I may do that while I'm on the bus because it's surprisingly the funnest way to pass the time while riding to school. But it's a good movie. I thought it was a good movie. I had a lot of fun with this movie, and I really would recommend it if you have watched SAO. If you haven't watched it, then you probably won't enjoy this movie as much because it's definitely for Sword Art Online anime fans or people who have watched through all Sword Art Online. But it's still a good movie in my opinion, and I really would recommend it. Thank you all for listening. I'm JGC Anime, and I shall see you around. Peace.